Wait, so we may have shot down kites or hobby balloons with AIM-9Xs? That's right, take that, kites.
Missile in the air! Break right flare! Missile in the air!
So there's a chance that these balloons were linked to private companies or research agencies. So we're going to talk about what those could actually be, what altitudes those would be flying at. And we'll talk about the president's comments. Was he pressured to shoot these extra objects down based on the massive Chinese spy balloon that made its way all the way across the country? Recently, the president's come out and said that the extra balloons after, the 3 shoot downs after, were not linked to Chinese spying. So we're going to talk about why that might be. And does it make sense that a balloon that started over Havre, Montana, made its way all the way to the Great Lakes overnight, if in fact that was the same balloon? We're going to discuss all that and more, so stay at the very end for that info. So why did the president remain silent? Well, he recently spoke and told reporters that he was analyzing the information that he had. The reporters told the president, you basically fueled conspiracy theories by staying silent. But what I think happened was something a little bit deeper, right? This is a tense situation with China. We already have the massive spy balloon going across the United States. And maybe the president was like, look, I don't want to escalate this any further. So even if these were linked to China, in my personal opinion, there's a chance that he's going to wait. He's going to have conversations with the CCP. He's going to discuss options. He's going to ask them some intense questions and hopefully get to the bottom of it and say to them, look, I don't have to disclose this to the entire world. We can work something out between us. Because at the end of the day, we already have that massive Chinese spy balloon that made its way all the way across the US, and we've recovered most of its wreckage. So what would we really gain by rubbing these extra 3 shoot downs in China's face? The president's exact words were, we don't yet know exactly what these 3 objects were, but nothing right now suggests they're related to China's spy balloon program or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country. So will we shoot $400,000 sidewinders at hobby balloons that happen to pop up across the US in the future? Hopefully not. The president said the US was developing sharper rules around unknown aerial objects that would help distinguish between those that are likely to pose safety and security risks that necessitate action and those that do not. But then it begs the question, right? If these airborne objects are near flight paths of airliners, and they're obviously going to pose a threat. But yeah, there's got to be a better way to shoot these things down than a $400,000 sidewinder. So what's China's overall reaction to all this? Well, they've commented on the larger balloon, and China has denied that the balloon was a surveillance airship. Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the balloon's entry into US airspace was an unintended, unexpected, and isolated event, adding China has repeatedly communicated this to the US side, yet the US overreacted by abusing the use of force and escalating the situation. China, come on, we see you. This balloon's gonna stop and pause over sensitive nuclear sites, and most likely China's gaining information as they ramp up their nuclear weapons program. They're basically investing more and more in their nuclear weapons program into silos and ground-based nuclear weapons. So most likely what that balloon was doing was trying to get any information, listen in, high fidelity data on anything that would help them as they continue to build their silos and their nuclear weapons infrastructure. They've recently even invested in a massive amount of nuclear submarines and road-based nuclear launch weapons. And then this ground-based silo system is the next thing in their arsenal that they're creating. Essentially, they want to just be seen on the world stage as a real competitor when it comes to nuclear weapons. They're basically just trying to up their game, and they think that they can use those nuclear weapons as a bargaining chip against the US and other countries. And in China, a lot of the leading academics who might step in and say, look, we don't need all this information about nuclear weapons. We have plenty. We're good. They've basically been silenced, and that's unfortunate. So where could the car-sized balloons have come from? So are there private companies out there that would launch something like this and basically forget about it? In my opinion, no. And part of that is just due to the fact that there is going to be a purpose behind a private company launching one of these, and there's going to be money behind it. They're going to want to get everything out of it they can and not get fined by the FAA. There's massive fines that can happen to private companies for endangering civilian air traffic. And the National Weather Service has recently stepped up and said this is not theirs. Science balloons are extremely well tracked and accounted for. And experts have even weighed in and said it's unlikely this is a scientific or weather balloon, just due to a lot of different reasons. Kevin Tucker is the president of an Oregon-based aerospace company. He said that high-altitude balloons are used for science and are typically well-tracked and follow strict federal aviation protocols. Tucker's company has spent more than 2 decades carrying out high-altitude balloon missions for NASA, the European Space Agency, and commercial partners. He said there's almost zero chance of such a balloon getting lost or drifting so far off course as to cause a national security incident. Because again, these agencies want to remain credible. They want to be seen as doing the work of the people with these balloons up there tracking the weather or getting other type of meteorological data that everyone below is safe. So if one of these were to drift off course or get lost or endanger civilian air traffic, it's going to endanger all these private companies that are gathering this information and even the National Weather Service. Tucker was asked, do these balloons just show up on radar? No, they don't, he said. They're completely tracked the entire time and very accurately. So he's basically saying like there's other means to track these things. We've got locators on them, so it's not just up to some radar to find them. You know where they are and who's doing it, Tucker said. The element of surprise of one just showing up, that just doesn't happen. He said that there's a lot of steps taken to make sure these things don't go off course or get lost. So no organization or private company has been linked to these so far, but there's articles out there going viral talking about how this is from a hobby club in Northern Illinois. And that's the Northern Illinois Bottle Cap Brigade. They have said that one of their balloons was missing and may have been the one shot down by the F-16. So now we're just gonna need for you to repay us for all the $400,000 sidewinders and the $20,000 per flight hour for the F-16s that were up there. Oh yeah, and the AWACS and the tanker support, we're gonna need to check by tomorrow. So now a quick recap so we can chat about where these things actually came from. So the first object over Alaska was shot down at 40,000 feet. The next one over the Yukon Territory was right around 40,000 feet as well. And then the one over Lake Huron was about 20,000 feet. So where do weather or commercial balloons fly? They actually fly at up to 100,000 feet, maybe even a little higher, like 120,000 feet. So the recent shoot downs don't make sense for that. Airliners fly from 30 to 40,000 feet regularly. Fighter jets have a max of around 50,000 feet or so. And the recent shoot downs happen lower, 2 at 40 and 1 at 20 like we talked about. So I think that pretty much rules out the weather balloon or scientific research balloon scenario. Now, yeah, you might have some yahoos that are launching balloons without talking to anybody, but I think a balloon that big that's able to travel, if it did in fact travel from Havre, Montana, all the way to Lake Michigan overnight, that's not gonna be a hobby balloon, that's something different. But yeah, the counterpoints are there's definitely the chance that it was just some yahoos operating out of a garage that launched this thing. So I do think it's worth thinking of, what is the lowest tech scenario, the most random scenario, and yeah, it certainly could be some yahoos launching a balloon out of their garage. And the counterpoints are, yeah, it could be civilian, it could have drifted down from higher altitudes after it started up extremely high because of some malfunction, but most likely that would have been tracked. And at the end of the day, I think this brings up a great conversation. Like, we need to have a way to bring these balloons down if they're not registered, if they're not tracked. How do we bring them down without using expensive sidewinder missiles or overreacting? Definitely worth talking about. So all you out there flying kites, be careful. I don't want you to get hit with a sidewinder missile as you're out there flying your kite. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. Really appreciate it. Most of all, thanks for being here. The best compliment you can give me is just watch another video. Thanks so much for catching the next video. Have a great day.